the most valuable asset today on Fortitude through Stoicism, and this is my 365-day journey of implementing the ancient philosophy of Stoicism into the life of this modern masculine man. We are just getting into October. This month is about virtue and kindness. And we talked about what virtue is yesterday. And today is mostly about Seneca. Now remember, Seneca the entertainer, one of the wealthiest men in Rome, and at the time, one of the closest to Emperor Nero. So the quote, "But the wise person can lose nothing. Such a person has everything stored up for themselves, leaving nothing to fortune. Their own goods are held firm, bond in virtue, which requires nothing from chance, and therefore can't be either increased or diminished." So again, what did the Stoics mean when we were talking about virtue? Because we're going to hear this, so this month is all about virtue. Virtue refers to the state of living in accordance with reason, encompassing the qualities of wisdom, courage, justice, and moderation, four guiding cardinal principles of Stoicism. Again, wisdom, courage, justice, and moderation or temperance. So when we talk about virtue, we're talking about those core values. So, what are we talking about in terms of assets, right? Because there are basically three types of people in this world. Three. The first type of person is someone who invests into hard assets, stocks, bonds, property, things of that nature. Investors, okay? Then there are others that invest in relationships. Good example would be Oprah Winfrey, right? These people develop relationships knowing that they can draw on those relationships just like someone can draw on a bank account when they need to. Now, the third type of person, Seneca says, invest in themselves. I'm a very good example of this. In being a good and wise person, the ever constant search for those guiding principles of Stoicism. So let's ask a question here, right? You have three people, you're on an island. Shit goes south, stranded. You have $1 trillion, okay? It's in a Swiss bank account. What value does that have, right? The world's, we just got hit with some kind of terrorist attack. The banking system's down. EMP, you can't get access to cash. You have a pile of paper and you're on a deserted island and I have food. Who is more wealthy, right? So same thing, play out the same scenario. We're on that deserted island, shipwrecked because we're on our beautiful yacht with all these people have all this property and assets and things. And now you have somebody who has these amazing relationships. Great. They have amazing relationships all around the world. No cell phone, no electric. So what is those relationships going to do for you? Very little, because you can't tap into them. But the third person who focuses on his character. Now, this is the third person out there. The third person is the type of person that invests in themselves, in being a good and wise person. So what does that look like in reality, right? When I have extra money, I spend on books, knowledge, seminars, coaches, business systems, technology, people who can make me better. That's part of my systems and process. Every single extra dollar, time I invest in myself. Why? Well, because you play out the same scenario on a desert island, I'm not going to fall to shit because I've been working on my character, right? I've been working on the fact that, hey, I realize that this is a thing put my emotion aside, think logically through that. Yes, I've trained all my life. Yes, I've done cold weather, cold weather survival, jungle training. I mean, I've done it all. So because I've invested in that skill set and that knowledge, and physically I invest in myself, endurance, strength. So let me ask you a question. You're on a deserted island and you're going to potentially die. You have 3 people with you. Warren Buffett, who is one of the richest people in the world. We could say that he's a genius when it comes to putting money into hard assets, okay? Oprah Winfrey, the Oprah effect. One of the most powerful people in the world based on her relationships. Or me. Now, you got to survive. You got to figure out a way to survive and get off that island. Now, I'm not saying that they are short of character, but what I'm saying is where they focus their time and their energy over the years. So the question is, what's the most valuable asset? Who would you want to be with on that deserted island? The person that has worked on his character and trained for those scenarios his entire life? Or the person with more money than God? Or the person with more relationships and best-selling books, right? This is a question. It's a real honest question in this world because, again, life is choices. This path that you're walking is your decision. The external sources are what they are. Your decisions is what puts you where you are right now and can also take you to a different place than where you are currently right now. So let's go back to Nero for a minute. So Nero, he was a really close friend, Seneca was a really close friend of Emperor Nero, and Nero's mental capacity started to deteriorate over time. Seneca knew he needed a way out. He had become very enriched from his relationship and proximity to the emperor. So Seneca made Nero a deal. He would give Nero all of his gifts, all of the money, return everything in exchange for complete freedom. Just for complete freedom. Now, ultimately, Nero rejected that offer. And Seneca left anyway, retiring to relative peace. But the executioner always comes knocking. And for Seneca, it was the executioner with one very simple thing, a mortal decree. So, in that moment, did Seneca rely on his wealth? No, he tried to give his money to the emperor. Could he rely on his relationships? No, because they were a mess. They were in grief and they were mourning. They were emotional mess and all this other stuff. What did he rely on? Now, it was Seneca's most trying moment. His last and his finest. And what Seneca relied on was his virtue and his inner strength. And on that, we're going to get to it.